Welcome back to the Real Estate Morning Show. I'm Dylan. This is Jen. We are missing Cease today. She couldn't be here because of an appointment. But we wanted to trek on because the bulk of the market stats came out, and we wanted to kind of jump right in and talk about them. So, without delay, let's get to it. The big news is sales are finally up a considerable amount year over year.
Yeah, it's nice to finally see that. Jeez, that took a minute.
Absolutely. So we're at now 16.8% up versus April of last year, which is fantastic. It is important to note still that April, both this year and last year, we're still down on what the average is over the last 10 years even.
Right.
So we're still climbing our way back up, but seeing something like 16.8% growth is
nice.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, and we're seeing it, right? Even with like the activity of the clients and, you know, even my coaching guys, like the amount of deals that they're doing and how busy everybody is and how busy the offices are. Like you can really feel that different spring market momentum from last year where it was just kind of flat.
Absolutely.
Right?
Last year it really kicked in kind of late. But this year to see April having a boost that it has is fantastic because it was always kind of that April and May that always saw like the most sales, most average price. June actually sometimes has the most sales, but in that range anyway, still we're seeing
our spring market for sure.
Great numbers. Keep forgetting that we've got these new microphones today and I'm talking at you instead of into the microphone. And so the sales that we saw increase last month was 11.3%. So we're, again, just that gradual increase that we're seeing is it's great news. Unfortunately, we can never have our cake and eat it too. The average price did not go up as much. It was pretty stagnant. It was 1.7% growth over last April.
I'm okay with that. So like I'll take it. I know that, you know, for the sellers out there, they want to see those prices go back up. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we had the market we did for the last year to readjust, right, and to correct. So if we're back at, our sales are picking back up because buyers are getting back out there and rates are holding at a nice level and we're getting that activity, then I'm happy. To me, I'm happy with that. Like the price can grow more gradually and make it a bit more realistic for buyers, you know, which is the whole point of this in the first place.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit closer to balance than what we would have seen with all the increases on the seller side before. This works well for buyers. This isn't a runaway market. We still have challenges in buyers getting financing and stuff like that. So this marginal growth, I think, is okay. Let's see more people get their home sold instead of struggling and not being able to sell.
Exactly. Like get the deals done and get people moved on. And, you know, arguably, it's not like prices, I mean, yes, some areas prices came down significantly, but they were so overinflated to begin with that you're still getting a great deal and price for your home when you're selling it in our current market. There's not that much to complain about.
Exactly.
So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, as a home, we do look at them as an investment vehicle sometimes, but ultimately this is your home. Unless this was a specific investment property for you that you didn't live in, you really have nothing to complain about the growth that we've seen, minus some people here and there. Condo market, we're seeing the biggest push in average price. It was up, where I got my stats here. It was up 5.8%. That's specifically in the GTA. So with only a 5.8% growth being the highest, that really shows why we're only up 1.7 year over year overall. But the sales, the detached market, fantastic in the 416, up 20.9%. In the 905, up 22.2%.
I love it. Yeah,
that's
those
perfect.
Are big numbers.
Let's look right back into those sales. Be excited that people's homes are selling again. And that keeps everything kind of going on. The prices will come after that.
And it's nice to hear. I mean, the 416 always kind of holds its own, just being the core market, right? But the 905 has been struggling for the last.
Specifically,
and every time we do stats in the detached, it's like, 905 is still down. So it is nice to see that big boost in growth, specifically for like the York region and north of there, because I mean, you know, they got hit pretty hard, right? So it's nice to see a bit of a shift.
See them, get the boost. Townhomes saw a good jump to 24.6% in the 416 and 19.1% in the 905. So again, just doing, you know, very strong. In terms of sales for the condo market in the 416, though, that was the market that really let us down in the previous month.
In March,
They saw a decline of 14%, which was huge. April, we've now rebounded to a small increase of 2.6%.
Okay,
so it's important to note when we talk about tightening markets, because we've looked at new listings are increasing, but they're not keeping up with the pace of the home sales that we've now seen this recent month. So we are going to see that tightening. And specifically in the condo market in the 416, that's what we saw. I mean, their sale increases was the lowest. but their price increase was the highest because that's where the tightening
supply.
of the tightening of the market there.
Yeah, I was talking to some of my clients yesterday, and I was having that conversation, saying, great news that everything looks like we have a bit of growth, we have forward momentum and movement, but at the same time, we're starting to see a decline in supply. So there's a little challenge there. Is that are we going to shift back into that low supply and high demand market?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting too, because I know that the construction, the new builds, the starts are way down this year.
Yeah.
Because developers, we're seeing such a slowdown that they're not really willing right now to break new ground on new developments, which means you remove that from the market for at least a good 6 months to a year by the time they reevaluate and then decide to break ground again. And then you take the fact that our supply is diminishing, and it's kind of just like, okay, where are we going here? What's going to come next, right?
Exactly. I think we'll continue to see those gains in the condo market.
Yeah.
Specifically in the 416, but it will have a ceiling, right? Like we've seen the little bit of pushback. It had that big run on at the even last year, and then at the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
And then we started to see that resistance come check in as the prices were kind of hitting where their new natural ceiling should be.
Yeah, and then there's always the conversation too of the guys that bought the condos over the last few years that have still seen some equity growth and bought the condo because they couldn't get into the townhouse prices. Well, now if they have that additional equity, are they going to make that shift? So exactly. What's going to happen there, right? So it's just, we're in such an interesting place in the market to see what the next year is going to bring, and kind of, I don't know, that stuff is cool.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the positive writing on the wall at the moment, which is a great place to be in.
Yeah.
Without jumping into too much more, I think that's where I want to leave it, because other than that, we're getting into some real nitty gritty, but that is positive news, specifically in the sales department overall, but seeing the 905 up that 22.2%.
That's huge.
Is fantastic. We know that the condo market's doing well. Now they're rebounding a little bit in terms of sales, which is great. Mm-hmm. And any of the condo owners that want to cash out on some of the money that they've made in the last year, it's a good time for them to do that as well. And they'll just want to monitor how what their competition looks like. Are they in a spot right now where they've got a lot of competition, or clearly showing that we know that there's that little bit of housing supply restriction there. So
there's a good opportunity there to shift into the townhouse when townhouses are they're coming back, but they're a little lower. Yet the condos have done so well that you can make that jump and make it a bit more lateral.
Exactly,
which would be
and
nice.
We actually it's just the sales department that we've really seen the townhomes jump. Their price hasn't jumped all that much. Yeah. So at least specifically in last month. So it would be a good time to make that jump.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's it for the market stats, but there's a couple other little stories that we wanted to talk about. You wanted to specifically talk about the GM plant.
The GM plant in Oshawa. There's been an announcement made the last day or two that they're not actually completely shutting it down, which is actually amazing. Of course, 2,500 jobs lost at the beginning. There's still going to be significant job loss, so it's not an ideal situation, but at least they're doing something. And they did state this when that first announcement was made, that they were going to be implementing something, and they're going to be using the space as a factory space, so some assembly, some packaging, things of that nature, and they're going to be saving around 300 jobs. So it's a start. What's interesting about it though is they're actually saying that there's 300 jobs for now, but going throughout the rest of the year, they're planning to expand the space and continue to create more jobs. So they expect to have significant job growth between now and December of 2019, which for Oshawa, for the housing market, for everything that's going on out there, it's a very positive announcement, because I know they've gotten hit pretty hard the last little while with all this going on, all the turmoil. And then there's also conversation that land might potentially get developed into multi-purpose, like retail, condo, and then the industrial space, because it's so close to the 401 and close to the GO Transit system and stuff, that it's ideal property. So, it's not the best news yet, but there is a lot. Again, the future looks like it could be pretty positive there, as opposed to completely shutting down and all jobs being lost.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that percentage, 300 out of the 2,500 isn't much, but at least it's something. And again, if they continue to develop, hopefully we get more jobs in there.
Right, and even if they don't
it comes from another segment.
Right, and even if they don't do the condo retail because that's just kind of a conversation by the sounds of it right now. But they're still saying very clearly that 300 jobs is going to convert into more by the end of 2019, because they're going to be expanding the factory space as well. So hopefully that's a good news for some people who maybe are in that position of being laid off and have the opportunity to kind of get back into the job, not have to move, not have to disrupt their family life, all that sort of stuff. Right?
Yeah, and I mean, we'll keep watching it. We talked about it when it first happened. There's a nice little update here, so we'll just kind of continue to monitor it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then a funny story about cats and houses because when showing, you always come across houses that are a little gross, maybe not something that you want to walk into.
Yeah.
And other than just clutter and mess, pets have a big impact on that,
Absolutely,
right? You get the smell of like somebody that's been maybe a bit of a hoarder or just hasn't maintained their house or looked after their pets properly.
Right.
You walk into one of those and you instantly feel disgusting.
Yeah.
You're like, I can't get this grossness off of me.
Yeah.
And so in the news they found, what was it, 200?
300.
300 cats in
a condo in North York.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I guess a neighbor filed a complaint and said that they thought there were about 70 cats in this apartment. And so the police, I think it was the police and animal services, went to the space.
Yeah.
And when they got there, there was actually 300 cats. The funniest part about it is the cats were all in good shape. Like, they were all healthy. There didn't seem to be major concerns. They seemed like they were well taken after. But obviously 300 cats in a condo is a bit of an issue. So there are pictures like online, and they're hilarious because it's just like this room with ears everywhere because you can't see anything but cats, right? So it's pretty intense. They ended up getting the Toronto animal shelters to come and help, and all the animals have been treated for like flicks and teas and gotten neutered or spayed or whatever was necessary, and they're trying to find homes for them at this point.
Wow.
But
I can't believe it.
Yeah, crazy.
It reminds me of my very first, I think it was like my first or second batch of showings ever with a client. And I was inspecting beforehand actually. Yeah. So I was alone during this. I go into a house and the upstairs and the main floor are just fine. And I get to the basement and I open the door and instant like a waft of cat. And I'm like, oh, that's really gross. But I was so new, I was like, well, I gotta go down and check it out. I didn't just like write it off. I was like looking around and there's just stains from these cats all over. There's probably about 7 or 8 cats in the basement. And it was filthy, and I'm like, well, I just got to see what the rec room looks like.
I got to check the edge of the furnace.
I feel so gross. Just took me back there for a second. And like nowadays, obviously, I'd be like, no, we're just not.
Absolutely,
write this one right off. This is disgusting.
Yeah.
But that was what I thought of instantly when I heard the story.
Yeah.
But you looked it up, and there are regulations on the amount that you can have in a domicile. And what were those numbers? I believe,
and I might be wrong, I know it's in the notes, but my understanding was in Toronto, in a residential domicile, you can have 3 dogs and 6 cats.
3 dogs and 6
Which
cats.
is an obscene amount of animals in one house, if you ask me. But I mean, people love their animals, and it's not a knock on animals. I love animals too, but that's a lot of animals in a condo, right? Yeah. Like you don't have a backyard, you don't have space. Like that's 9 animals.
Yeah,
that's significant.
Yeah. In sometimes what's under 600 square feet.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think Toronto might need to talk about that a little bit. Maybe limit that.
Or judge it by the square foot of your home or something.
Yeah, maybe we scale it. I don't know.
It's no good. Anyways, that is our show for today. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll be posting on our Facebook and Instagram throughout the week. Mm-hmm. And until next time, I'm Dylan. This is Jen, and we will see you next time.